Our guest today is Milford Police Chief Thomas O'Loughlin. Tom, welcome.
Welcome, Tom.
Happy to be here.
So to start right off, this month is the picnic. How are we doing on that, the planning?
It's actually this coming weekend. So we plan during the year. We take a look at the events from the year prior. How can we do things differently, better? So it's a learning process each and every year. This is, well, tomorrow is I commence my 14th year here in Milford. So
Wow.
I've planned and organized the safety and security for the picnic now for 13 years. And we've met with success, you know, because we've built those partnerships with the staff at the club, with the community, and, you know, we have a partnership with the state police who give us some resources. So we're ready to go. Things will be set up for us Friday, and we'll be ready to go for Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah,
That's great.
I remember back 20, 30 years ago, you had a lot of incidents there. I haven't recalled anything during your tenure occurring there other than minor arrests.
There's always something. You know, I mean, you can't put 10,000 people into a venue and you know, and have alcohol in the mix and things like. I mean, if the measure is to have, you want to have absolutely no issues, but you may have issues. And the bottom line comes down, it's no different than a sporting event or any other large event. There'd be no Red Sox games, there'd be no Patriots games, there'd be no Celtics games, Bruins games, if that was the margin of error. So
Right.
we do work towards that. Our goal is to make sure that people are safe and secure. We do run into people that actually, more that come to the picnic that shouldn't be coming to the picnic because, you know, they've had too much to drink. In those instances, we try to alert family, and the good thing is that we're all Milford officers, so between myself and the other officers, generally we know a family member of that person, and we're able to contact them to come and take care of them. So you're correct. I mean, the number of incidences has gone down. We started to see some outside of the venue because of the police presence, and that's when we developed a relationship with the state police.
And they patrol the surrounding neighborhoods.
Right, so we use state troopers as well as our own personnel outside of the venue as well as inside, so it works out very well.
That's the biggest thing you have to deal with all year, isn't it, in terms of crowd managing potential incidents?
Yeah, the Santa Parade is a little bit easier.
I was going to say, the Portuguese parade on the Sunday is a little bit...
Actually, you know, it's very quiet in the sense that, you know, Sunday afternoon is more traditional ethnic dancing and music, so you just don't have those. And people are cooking out, and, you know, in the area as well as throughout the town. So it tends to be quieter. Sunday nights are quieter than Saturday night, you know, for obvious reasons. People have to get up and go to work come Monday morning. So it works itself out. We do keep a handle on things as best we're able to.
I know you get to control the volume on the music.
Yeah, I control the timing of the music as well as the volume. I actually do leave the picnic periodically during the evening, and I'll drive down into neighborhoods and just get out of my police car and listen and just see what the level is, you know, as far as the volume. And I work very closely with the officers of the club. Joe Gonsalves has been the president for many years and very cooperative, you know.
Well, they want a good event too.
Yeah, they don't want any issues at all. So very, very helpful. You know, you simply ask and it gets done. So we do monitor things out in the neighborhoods. So volume of music, yes, I get to control that, which is interesting because I'm not a music person in the sense of telling you who artists are and the rest of it. But, you know, that said, you know, the neighborhood in that area we do, and again, in fact, I was on the phone today with the state police. So they'll send me a sergeant and 4 or 5 troopers, and we do put them out into that area. So, you know, people, you ought not come and think you're going to tailgate and do, you know, those types of things.
Go up to Shaw's parking lot, have a good time, walk the 2 blocks over.
It's going to result in a problem, and the problem is you'll end up, if they arrest you, state police, they take you to Millbury, they're going to tow your car, you're going to be charged. So the smart thing is, if you're coming to the event, come to the event.
More of a small town attitude in a large town. Tactily.
It's simply, you know people, so
Right.
it's, do the right thing.
Well, that's good. That's
Right.
good. That's advantageous because people feel safe, they feel comfortable, they can come to your officers and say something and know that there's not going to be a big deal about it. Be handled quietly and respectfully.
Some things are better dealt with in the living room than the courtroom, so.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You do your best to make sure people are safe. That's the key. Someone that has had too much to drink, under the statute, one of the places you can take them, protective custody, is their own home. So we try to work with families, we try to work, with responsible adults to take custody of people that may need help.
That's good.
Other than the parade being, the picnic being the largest event of the year, what's the biggest law enforcement challenge you're facing? Is it still the opioid epidemic, or?
No doubt. Heroin's the biggest thing, not just here,
All over.
but across this country. I recently, a couple weekends ago, visited, my wife came from West Virginia, so we went to West Virginia to visit, and front page story. In a town the size of Milford, the front page story was a task force to deal with the issue of heroin, overdoses, as well as finding needles in public places, whether they be parks or restaurants.
So if this is happening countrywide, I think some people get upset and think it's, when they read about it in the local paper, that there's a complaint of needles found, in a restaurant parking lot, that this is the only place it's happening, but it is everywhere.
There's not a community in the state that's not experiencing this issue. Some more than others. The more, from the restaurant side of it, the more restaurants you have where you have to have public facilities, men's and ladies' rooms, you're going to run into that. And from our perspective, we want them to report it to us. Don't touch the syringes because of the potential of them being harmed
Right.
medically
Right.
as a result of handling those syringes. So we ask them to call us and we'll dispose of them properly between police, fire, EMS. So each of us are working together to deal with that. I mean, for the same reason we all carry Narcan, so that if someone does overdose, we can do our best to save their life, and I mean, that's somebody's son, daughter, mother, father, they have family too, so.
And we're really talking, I think, cutting across all strata of society. I mean, when I was growing up, and somebody said a heroin addict, you'd think of, a bum on the street or somebody who
Skid Row or some specific
Skid
area.
Row or lower down in life. And today we're talking about, suburbia, mom and pops and,
Right.
honor students at school and.
Today we're talking about look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Look at your family, because any one of them that's who we're seeing. We're seeing much younger people. We had an overdose, a young girl, 14, and she had been using heroin already for a couple of years, so 12, she's using heroin. So is it at that point of epidemic? It's scary. It's truly frightening. They have developed a way of distributing heroin. I read an article in the New York Times in which they say they've created, it's very much like delivering pizzas. You call, they deliver. And they have times of the month where they will say to someone who is addicted, you bring 2 friends and we'll give it, you get yours free and we'll give them some free. So they're building their clientele off the backs of people who are already addicted. The issue of prescriptions for OxyContin, very powerful, I mean, very adequate and reasonable painkillers, but the fact is people end up addicted. Whether the prescriptions or the volume is too great, so they have availability, but we're seeing they then transition from the OxyContin over to the heroin. Heroin is very cheap on the street and plentiful. We're locking people up left and right that are selling. So, when you talk about OxyContin and you're paying $1 a milligram, An 80 milligram pill is $80 to $100 on the street.
Right.
Heroin, that same amount of heroin for that addict, $15, $20. So,
And then the crime that goes along with it,
well, you know, frankly, there are countries in the world that have found that by providing the heroin to those people that were addicted, and I'm not suggesting that, I'm simply saying they found that their property crimes, their crimes against people as far as robberies went down to almost nothing. I would say that you could literally take 90% of our breaking and enterings, if not more, whether it be cars, homes, whatever the case may be, are related to addiction. If you have, you know, you said, well, $15. Well, keep in mind, if I use 6, 7 bags a day, you know, that's 15 times 7. So, you know, I'm in for $105 every single day, 7 days a week. So I still have to eat, I still have to put shelter over my head, and I still have to pay some other bills, right? So where do I find that kind of money? And where they find it is in your jewelry drawer, my jewelry drawer, and other people's homes. They're going to steal.
After heroin, would you say the biggest issue in Milford is really traffic?
Traffic's the #1 issue anywhere. You go to community meetings. I don't. You can go to the most dangerous neighborhoods in this country, and people will complain about traffic.
It seems today that more and more I notice on the back roads and side streets, people are still driving like they're on 495.
Yeah, but you know, the other side of the equation is it's very congested. I mean, you take Route 16, you know,
God.
so right. So what you get is you get avoidance. You know, people are looking path of least resistance, so they're looking for ways around it. In doing so, you're right. You know, and today cars, they ride so smoothly. They're quiet when you're driving. You know, so you come off the highway, and a lot of people don't realize that they're still traveling at a rate of speed that may be unreasonable for that neighborhood. But it is the #1 complaint. And then there's perceptions. I mean, we went and bought 2 of the black boxes, you know, the old boxes that you used to have to string cables across the roadway to measure speed. We own 2, you don't need the cables.
So they're just boxes sitting at the side.
Yeah, we tack them onto a pole.
Right.
And let
So
them
it
sit
records
there.
the speed of cars going
Right,
by.
and then it gives me accurate information. So
flavor for what the
sometimes it's perceptions that vehicles are traveling faster than they should. But we find in some instances that, you know, speed limit's 30, and you get vehicles, you know, engineers look at the 85th percentile. What are 85% of the vehicles traveling at or below? So that's what we look at as well. And you tend to find, I mean, if they're within 5 miles, 35 miles an hour, it's not unreasonable. It may be for people that have young children, you know, who are playing in the front yard, but the fact is that's the speed limit in most neighborhoods.
What other issues do you face on a regular basis?
Well, you know, you get concerns that come up periodically as far as, you know, people, we had a rash of breaking and entering into motor vehicles, and we end up, you know, arresting those individuals. And there's a sense of frustration there because, you know, people come out to their vehicles to go to work and their GPS is gone. You know, so there's frustration, and I appreciate it. I mean, it's really, it comes down to lock your car.
I hate to say it and sound like I'm blaming people, but you also read, like, you know, people had a laptop stolen or cash stolen or their cell phone stolen. Like, what are you doing leaving your car in this day and age?
Well, any day and age. I mean, if you leave valuables out in the open, there's always someone that'll be there for the taking. And it's sad, but it's true. So lock your vehicle in any event. We only had 1 forced entry into a vehicle where they broke the window. Because there were valuables there that were clearly valuables. You know, as you mentioned, laptop computers or iPads. If you own a smart device, you know, iPhone, put on there. Find my iPhone, find my iPad. We solved the break-in and entrance into those vehicles with Find My iPad. So we traced the iPad right to that apartment. That's sufficient for us to get warrants to go in, and that solved all those breaking and entering. So there's measures that people can take, proactive. beforehand. When you leave your home during the day, lock it. I mean, secure the home. If you have an alarm system, use it. A lot of people, we have break and enters, and they said, well, you know, we stopped using the alarm system because it was a pain in the neck. Well, breaking and entering is a pain in the neck as well. Other than that, you know, I think we're fortunate in many respects. I've said it right along. There's not a street in Milford that I would have a concern, day or night, walking on with absolutely no concern for my well-being and safety. And that's, you can't find that in every community.
You're right.
So, you know, I'm pleased that that's the case. I would have no concern with any of my kids, you know, my daughter, my granddaughter, none whatsoever, anywhere in this community. And I get calls from people that are looking to buy a house or rent an apartment, and they'll say, what can you tell me about this street? And we actually do a printout for them. We will give them the list of calls.
On that street?
You know, for that street. You know, we'll give them a year's worth or a couple of years' worth.
Well,
We do black out things that are personal nature,
Right.
you know.
But I was going to say, there are some streets where you have more calls than others.
Almost certainly. When you have housing that's more congested, so you have people that are literally, you know, live in, you know, it's the old, say, South Boston issue, you know, if you want to borrow a cup of sugar, knock on the neighbor's window.
Yeah.
You know, the houses are so close. So if you come into the downtown area, you're more apt to get the noise complaint. You're more apt to get, you know, if there is a domestic disturbance, you're more apt to get that call from a neighbor than you are in other areas of the town. You know, so no question about it, that the more congested the residences, the more apt you are to get the calls to service.
Wow. I'm just thinking that, I mean, Milford is, relatively speaking, compared to other towns the same size, or it's a very safe place to be. Very, very safe.
No question about it. And you know, if you look at, you know, the issue of policing across this country and the relationships and talking about developing relationships with the community, I think we've done that. I believe in my heart that people in this community have a level of respect and care for us as much as they know we do for them. And
In other places in the country, that's broken down.
yeah, without a question.
And that's a sad statement.
Yeah, you know, it hasn't reached the point, at least in my tenure here in Milford, or you know, you don't have that us and them. You know, we're here to serve this community, and I think we do a good job at it. It's, you know, I enjoy going there every day. I truly believe that I make a difference to people every day. So I love what I do. I love this community.
I think
So-
most of the people that work for you are very accessible. And by that, I mean, you know, you can stop and ask a question. You can report anything.
I hope so. I mean, that was the goal. The goal has always been to have, you know, officers that feel that they're part of the community, whether they reside here or not. You know, I chose to move here, to build a house here, to raise my kids here, and that's something I elected to do. Other officers, although they don't live in the Milford community, some of them grew up here.
Right.
You know, so there's still that connection. But there are those that didn't grow up here, don't live here, but there's still a connection. You know, they get it. That we're here to serve the community. That's who pays us. You know,
How many officers are on the force right now?
We have 45 sworn, and I have 9 full-time civilian dispatchers. So everybody working inside, you know, are civilian staff. And the 45 from myself on down, you know, they all have their individual assignments, whether it be patrol or detectives. We have 2 full-time school resource officers. You have licensing personnel, you know, which deal with firearms licenses, sex offenders registering with us. So, you know, across the board, we have a sergeant. She handles the court. So there's individual responsibilities, but most of the personnel are assigned to patrol.
No, that's good. So you have them out in the community.
They're out in the neighborhoods, and that's their function. You know, we work very closely with the fire department, with EMS.
You do have a tremendously great relationship with the fire department in this town. Is that something you've consciously done? Has the fire department consciously done? You don't see that in a lot of other towns. Just sort of go like this. You guys work hand in glove.
I'll give a lot of credit to, the former fire chief, John Toohey. John and I became friends, and we worked hard at it. In breaking down some of the barriers that were even there. We respond. I don't know of another police department that responds to every EMS call. We're first responders. In fact, I have one officer, Robbie Tassino, who's a paramedic.
Yes.
Robbie's the only paramedic in the state that's licensed to work alone. It took me 2 years to get that license. And you look at the number of people he saved their lives. So
Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was the first on the scene when the gentleman had the heart attack during the fireworks at the 4th of July.
It was actually one of the auxiliary officers.
Was
one of the new auxiliary officers was first. He called. Robbie was right down the street. Came in. Right behind him, you had fire rescue,
Right.
paramedics, and the key is, there's no territory when you have someone that's sick like that. That's the territory. That's the person. That's who we're there to help. So it's not, that's my job or that's your job, and that's why myself and Chief Toohey, John Toohey at the time, and his brother Bill, who's now the chief,
Right.
Bill Toohey, and we've continued with that process, that we have police officers that are either first responders or paramedics. They're in the neighborhood. So if they're right down the street and you're taking ill or something's not going right for you, medically, and they can be of help, they can literally be the first person through the door to make a difference and save your life. It could be the instances that we've had of children choking.
Well, you had Selectman Buckley's grandson was helped by
right.
by one of your detectives who was doing an off.
Bob Pavia was working a detail.
He was working a detail, didn't even know whose house it was,
Heard
ran
the
right
call
in.
and he went in. So it's, but you have to build that mindset. And
Right.
the mindset is, that is your responsibility. That is the responsibility of a police officer. And that way, when the fire rescue or EMS, when they arrive, hopefully the person is in better condition than they were prior. I mean, the
Right.
goal is, how do you help someone? So I think building that relationship, the fact that John and I had such a positive working relationship, I really do. I think that it filtrated through both departments to the point now it's really seamless. I mean,
Do you believe in leading by example? I notice you actually respond to calls every now and then.
yeah,
Minor ones. I mean, the major ones you're called, but the
Right.
minor ones, I've heard you on the radio.
If I'm there, I can do police work, and I know it's interesting, but it's, when I first came to Milford, one of the issues, police officers, I would arrive, for instance, at a motor vehicle accident. They're helping people that are hurt. They're investigating the accident. So I would direct traffic. I can direct traffic. I did it for years. So, and they would be, wait, you're not supposed to do that. You're the chief. I can do that while you do what you're doing. So it's not, you have to get past that ego stuff. And I think that really helped us, our relationship as far as with fire and other departments. I mean, we have a great working relationship, for instance, with the highway department, the parks department. Don't hesitate for a second to pick up the phone and talk to Mike Brashani or Scott. Hey, can you help me with this? Or how can we accomplish that? The librarian, Sue doesn't hesitate to reach out. She knows that,
Yep.
We're going to help her any way that we can help her, to get to a positive result. So
She's got that middle school horde 9 months a year that comes pouring across the street.
no question. And that's why that was one of the places, as you know, when we distributed police radios to the schools, we also distributed to the library, the youth center.
Youth center, yeah.
And I couldn't find a police department in the country that had done it up to that point. Now there's, I think, like a dozen. We've received phone calls from many of them saying, hey, how'd you accomplish that? So, so working close with the other department heads, and it's day-to-day work, as well as it's, being respectful of their position on things. There's times when I've had things, for instance, on the capital improvement list, and another department head would call me and say, you know, I'm facing this as an emergency. You know, can I jump ahead of you? And the answer always is, of course. You know, can I wait another year? Sometimes reluctantly so, but nevertheless, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
There's times, as you know, we just closed out the budget again, so number 13 in the black again by hundreds of dollars. But there have been years where other departments faced emergencies and they were overrunning their budget. And myself, the fire chief, at times were able to put money towards them to help them out so that town meeting wouldn't be in a bind. And yeah, I guess you just do that for each other.
Oh, wow.
It's still a small town feeling.
Yeah,
Right.
that's essentially what makes Milford different than a lot of other communities locally, is that it's a small town attitude that's a big town, and that makes a difference.
Yeah, it's respect.
Well, I think that's the key, is being to answer the phone when someone calls and to talk to somebody just like you're talking to whoever. You know, you're not selective in who you talk to, and that's critical. Approachability, I think, is the word I'd choose, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
I think it's hundreds of little things. I mean, it's not a big deal, but it is to me when I know you text out during the annual Portuguese picnic, you text out to the press on Saturday and Sunday what arrests were made and for what, just so we keep up with it. And
Yeah, well,
it's a minor thing, but to us,
your business is information.
but to us
and
it matters because then we don't have to hunt you down.
precisely, and some of it is you know, you end up getting accurate information
As opposed to
rather
rumor.
than, you know, the rumors or you know, whatever else. So the goal is to really get information out, and in today, you know, with everything on the internet.
Well, I
and all the
see
rest of
you
it,
making posts on Facebook.
Oh,
and,
we do. We
and
have
on,
our Facebook
on
page.
Patch and on other things.
Yeah, we
you
do our
guys are
best.
very proactive.
We do our best to get information out to people, you know, because today, social media,
Yeah, I do
you
read
blink
some of your,
and you're,
I do read some of your
Yeah.
Facebook postings.
yeah,
They're
so
good.
we attempt to get information out through Facebook of what's taking place in the community so people have a feel.
Yeah, many times I've seen there'll be a serious accident and your guys have a photo of it. Right there, so people know what went on.
So, right, so the attempt is to try to give people information, you know, as accurate as we can, because a lot of those situations are pretty fluid, you know. You arrive at something.
Well, we had the great Ebola scare, if you remember,
Correct.
which
Correct.
by the time, I don't want to pick on anybody, by the time I heard it on a local, let's just say a local media, it had already been determined it wasn't Ebola. And I got a kick out of that because things move so fast.
Right.
I remember sitting there going, I got a call from somebody going, oh my God, they got an Ebola patient near town hall. And I said to myself, who do I call first, the policeman or the fireman or the Board of Health? And I opted for the fire chief, saying even if the police are there, if the person has an illness, they transport it.
Right.
So it was a toss-up between you or Bill Toohey, and I picked Bill Toohey, who, you know, answered right away and said, we disproved that a half an hour ago.
And I was happy to block the road for him and stay down the street.
But I mean, there's a talk, you want to talk about rumor, and that went on
Yeah.
for half a day, that we had an Ebola epidemic in Milford, so. But anyway, I'm hearing our little buzzer go off, and believe it or not, our time is up. Thank you for coming.
Happy to be here.